let's chat. Let's learn. Franck Bideau is with us, Exchange Resources. Now, when you hear Franck speak, you'll know he came to us directly from Brooklyn so that you can educate us on 1031 exchanges. Good morning.
Good morning. Actually, I'm from Texas.
Texas. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was off by about 1,000
this is
miles.
a Paris in Texas. Do you know that?
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Paris, Texas. Exactly. So 1031 exchanges is your expertise.
That's right. So let me ask you a question. What happened when you sell a highly appreciated investment property?
You pay a lot of taxes.
That's right. Now, the tax code has a nice little section called a Section 1031.
Okay.
And that's going to allow an investor, as long as they sell that investment property and going to replace it by another investment property, they're going to be able to defer the payment of the capital gain tax, right? Not only federal, but state, depreciation recapture, and yes, the Medicare surtax. So, you're looking maybe 35, 40% you can defer as long as you're going to buy another investment property. What this means is that if I have $1 million gain, rather than paying $350,000, $400,000 in taxes, I'm going to be able to keep that money and reinvest 100% of my proceeds, therefore buying more real estate, better real estate, and build more wealth over time.
And the compounding effect is the thing that people don't usually think about.
Exactly.
So let's do a being that you brought it up that way, Franck. I want to do a little bit of a math 101 here.
Okay.
And I'm going to use really small numbers because big numbers just add zeros. We don't need to worry about that. So let's say we have $100,000 in a capital gain and 35% taxes. Let's just throw that number out there. We've got $65,000 left.
Yep.
Using the 1031, if we reinvest that $100,000, we have zero in taxes right now.
That's right. And again, the 1031 exchange doesn't eliminate the payment of the tax. Eventually, if you're going to sell that property without doing an exchange, you're going to be paying the taxes.
Sure.
But you can keep doing that indefinitely,
So now at the end of this transaction, I've got one account that's got 65,000 and one account that's got 100,000.
Yep.
Just so it's on our ledger.
Yep.
Now, if both of those grow at 10% in the next, say, 2 years.
Yeah.
Now I've got 110,000 and I've got 72,500.
That's right.
The compounding effect there is what's really massive.
Yeah. And then you also look at the tax benefit, right? Because the nice thing when you own investment real estate is that you can depreciate that asset over time, right? So you have those.
Okay, so I'm gonna get technical there.
Yeah.
And again, are you a CPA?
I'm not a CPA, by the way.
Good.
Yeah.
And I'm not a CPA. We don't give tax advice. So these are questions for you to ask your tax person. So that way we stay out of trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
So we don't have to worry about if I've got that property that I was selling, if that was fully depreciated.
Then you have zero write-offs, right?
Zero write-off on that.
Yeah.
Now I go and I buy a new property through the 1031 exchange process. Can I start depreciating the new property?
So then you would start a new depreciation schedule. And depending if you have depreciation left over from the previous property, you may add another depreciation schedule or start fresh. But, let's say you own a property that's worth 100,000. You have no depreciation on it. You're getting zero write-off. But now if I use that 100,000, buy a property that's worth 500, and let's say you only depreciate the building, right?
Right.
Not the land. So let's say if I take 300 of that and depreciate that, that's quite a bit more, money. So
sure.
It's more compounding as well and higher.
So the bottom line is that if you've got a fully depreciated property, you want to be talking to your tax people about saying, does it make sense for me to go and sell that and buy something new?
Exactly.
Now, this is the time of year to have those questions ready. I know a lot of tax people want to get you in and out because they're so busy. But the bottom line there is have your questions ready. That way you're not using any more time than you have to, because tax planning is not done in March and April. Contrary to popular belief, that's when tax reporting is done. Tax planning is done the other 7 or 8 months of the year when you can really sit down and make a game plan. So why doesn't everybody just do this 1031 exchange?
It's surprising. I mean, some people are not aware of it. I think there's an education problem.
Okay.
And some people just want to, cash out. So and let's face it, some people,
It's easy.
Yeah, it's easy, right? Or some people may just want to retire from managing properties, not knowing that there are other vehicles that they can invest into that they could exchange into. I'm thinking of those Delaware statutory trusts, which are more like a securitized type of investment, but the IRS has blessed exchanging into. We don't sell those. You have to be licensed to sell those, but that could be a great investment type for people looking at exiting management. But it's interesting to see, and a lot of people are making that mistake, Ron, is that you have owned your investment property for like 20, 25 years, right? And you have so much equity in it. And then let's just talk about depreciations, right? You basically are depreciated, close to zero, when you have held that property for so long. But taking that equity and reinvesting that in a, larger property, just on the depreciation side, I mean, that's a huge benefit. Massive, right? So I think a lot of people are making that mistake to hold on to their property too long and not, using that equity, using maybe a little bit of leverage, reinvesting in larger, better properties, better return, and also those potential tax benefits. So,
and there's several components to return, right? So you've got the appreciation as one component, and the write-off is the other side of your balance sheet.
The write-offs, and you have you as you're paying your loan. I mean, it's like you're putting money into your saving account, right?
Sure.
And hopefully that property is going to pay for itself. So you have that component as well, and then of course the return. And so when you combine,
somebody else make your mortgage payment.
Yep, exactly.
Great stuff. We're going to continue our conversation. There's a bunch of questions that we hear all the time. Timing. Can you do it? Do you have to do it right away? Do you have to wait? What are some of the timing issues? Can you buy before you sell? Do you have to sell before you buy? Equal or greater value rules. There's a whole lot here, and we're going to get them all answered from Franck when we come back. Continue our conversation this morning. Franck Bideau from Exchange Resources is with us, talking about 1031 exchanges. If you are contemplating investing in real estate, and you should be. Do you want to pay taxes? And you should not be. Well, there's some people, I guess, that like paying taxes. If you do, let me know if you get a thank you note from the government. I don't think you're going to, but maybe you will. But here's the issue. Regardless of the time frame, and I just saw this on one of the social channels this morning, drives me crazy when people say, well, the stock market goes up faster than real estate. Not true. If you really want to look at an investment standpoint, because the stock market, for the most part, doesn't have the leverage effect. If you were to put 20% down, which most people do not, they put less than 20% down. That means whatever the rate of return is. So the real estate, if it goes up 5.8%, I think is what it's going to turn out to be for last year. We haven't got the December numbers all in yet. 5.8%. If you put down 20%, that means you take that 5.8 and multiply it times 5 to get the return on your capital. If my math is correct, that's about 29% rate of return. Was the stock market up 29% last year? And could you live in it? Because you got to have a place to live too. Just throw that out there for you. Now, if you're an investor, properties that are not being lived in, well, how do you get your money out? Well, you sell, or but that doesn't work because then you got to pay taxes. So you trade. 1030 or exchange is what Franck is talking about.
Right.
So now if we exchange a property, say I've got a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, single-family home, and I trade that in for a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, single-family home. I don't get to take any money out of that, right? When I do a 1031 exchange?
No, you have to reinvest everything.
Reinvest everything.
Yep.
Once I've reinvested everything, can I refinance that property down the road sometime?
You could. Now, again, you would want to talk to your tax advisor. You don't want to do that too early, right after. You want to give it a little time, season that,
right.
That exchange. but you could, pull some money out at one point and maybe reinvest into something else.
Buy another single family, another 4-bedroom, 3-bath single family home.
Something like that, perhaps.
Right?
Yep.
Because that way you can leverage and maximize your growth potential.
Yep. Exactly.
Right. So and the other part of it is if I buy it today and I don't know what interest rates are, I'm going to throw a number out there and say that they're at 7.5 on a non-owner occupied. I don't know. It could be 6.5 for all I know. Right. And interest rates drop next year. Does it affect my 1031 at all if I refinance and just do a straight no cash refinance?
No, it does not, because you're not selling the property, you're just refinancing.
Yeah, you're just refinancing it to make more money.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're going to improve your return over time. Yeah.
So the bottom line is now you're taking that $4,000 a month payment that your mortgage payment, and maybe you're going down to $3,000 a month.
So
but your rent,
better. Yep.
So your spread is better, and your rent only goes upward because we rarely have negative rent returns on rent.
Yep.
Right. So instead of going, if you were renting it for $5,000, I'm just throwing out numbers. Don't use the exact numbers. So you were making $1,000 a month was your gross. Now you're making $2,000 a month.
So you're increasing your return by maybe picking or reinvesting in a better, larger property.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, you say something interesting, right? If you put 20% down on a property, the rate of appreciation, you're not only appreciating on that 20% down you're putting, you're appreciating on 100% of the value of the property.
Right.
So having some leverage is kind of neat, right? So you can spread that equity that you may have buying a couple, properties and getting the return not only on that initial investment, but the total value of the property over time.
So let me ask you that question then, Franck. If I have a $500,000 in equity on my departing property, in a 1031 exchange, can I break that up into two different properties at $250 each or whatever the multiples?
You could, but something that to remember too is that in order to have a good exchange or defer 100% of your capital gain taxes, is that you have to replace the value of the property, right? Not just the gain. So if I sell a property that is worth $1 million, I have to buy equal or greater to $1 million. Actually, to be a little more specific, it will be the net sale price because you can deduct some of the non-recurring closing costs like commissions. But to keep things simpler, you sell for $1 million, you have to buy equal or greater to $1 million to defer 100% of the taxes. If you buy for less, let's say you buy for 900, then you would be paying the tax on the differential of the 100K that you're not replacing. So you have to replace the value, the sale price, not just the gain or the equity. That's very important, right?
So there's strategies for that also. And I'm going to throw this strategy out at you, Franck. So I go and I find a $950,000 property. I've got $1 million property. I go and I find a property for $950,000. Can I go to the seller? Because we do this, for single family owner occupied all the time. Can I go to the seller and make the seller an offer of $1 million and ask him to use that other $50,000 to buy down the interest rate?
You couldn't, because that would be considered boot. You cannot have any credit. So you have to be careful how you structure that. You
can't use an interested party contribution.
Yeah, you cannot use that. It's not part of a non-recurring closing cost, right, to come to the value. So giving a credit or getting a credit could affect your boot, as we call it, the taxable portion of that exchange. So you have to be careful. We talk to your CPA, to make sure that you structure the deal, correctly.
And that's a key thing on all deals. We highly, highly recommend, if you're an investor, make sure that you're structuring the deals and have a good, I call it your household board of directors. You've got your realtor, you've got your lender, you've got your CPA, you've got your attorney. You may need a real estate attorney. You definitely want to make sure it's in a trust. If you're buying investment property, it needs to be in a trust. You've got to have Franck on your team to be helping you with the 1031 portion so that you do that properly. It's not like you just go to your escrow officer and say, I want a 1031, and it's that easy, right? You need to have
there are some rules to follow, and that's what we are here to help people go through that and strategize. We set forward, provide people with the guidelines, what they cannot do. Like we talk about, it's always important to refer to your tax advisor, your attorneys. but we can, provide some general information on how to go about it. But I like to go back to your example, and that's kind of, I kind of think it's kind of cool. So you're selling $1 million property, right? Let's say it's all you don't owe anything on that property. So you have $1 million in cash on hand. Then you go out and buy 2 properties. So you can sell one and buy 2, right?
Sure.
But maybe you're going to finance 50-50 on each of those properties. So now for that $1 million, you're going to buy 2, $1 million property. You put down $500K on one, $500K on the other. You finance, $500 on each. So now you made from that 1 million, you got 2 million. Now you're going to appreciate on those 2 million, right? And then you're going to have the benefits of depreciations as well, and the ability to diversify and enhance your portfolio.
So and now think about it. If you had a property that was appreciating at 5%, so 5% on that million. $50,000.
No, I bought 2 properties for 1 million each.
No, I'm saying
Yep.
I hadn't got there yet.
Yeah, okay.
You're right. $5 million on your departing property.
Yeah.
Now you bought $2 million worth of real estate at 5%, and so you've got $100,000 in appreciation by itself. Obviously, you have to take off your cost of financing, but you've only financed 50% on each one, so you're going to have a low number there.
Yeah, and again, like you said, right, you make your money in real estate by the appreciation of the property, right? The return on that investment, your cash flow, right? And then you also have the tax benefits, like your depreciations, right? So when you add all of those benefits combined, then
I didn't even say that.
Yeah.
So when you had your $1 million property that you were depreciating, maybe now you've got 2 million that you're depreciating. And what is it, 27 years? Is that?
So it depends on the type of properties, right? So for residential, you depreciate over 27.5 years, commercial, 39 years. And you have some variation in between if you accelerate your depreciation and so forth. But, as
it can help a lot to get rid of your ordinary income even, or the.
So if you're in a higher tax bracket, right, then you may need those write-offs every year.
Big time. We're going to continue our conversation with Franck Bideau, Exchange Resources. We're continuing our conversation this morning. Franck Bideau, Exchange Resources. We're chatting about 1031 Exchange this morning. We're learning about them. And it's a tax planning strategy. It is not a gimmick. It is not something new. It's been around a long time. Totally legal. We don't talk about illegal stuff on Ron Siegel Radio. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. We want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. And the 1031 is intimidating a good word for the ignorant person?
I mean, when you first look at the rules and things, it can be, what am I getting into? But again, it's why you have professionals who can help people, through the process. And
knee replacement is intimidating too.
Exactly. You're not doing it yourself, right?
You don't want to do it yourself. Yeah, you can look it up online and you're probably not going to have a good outcome.
Yeah.
So that's why you want to have a professional that understands that's dealing with 1031 exchanges all the time. And, we talk about reverse mortgages on Ron Siegel Radio, but there's something called a reverse 1031 as well. Can you explain that a little bit, Franck?
Sure. So you have different kind of exchanges, and we do all of them at Exchange Resources. But so your typical exchange, you're going to sell your property first, and you're going to buy the replacement property later, right?
Well, you have a certain amount of time, right?
And you have, exactly, right? So you have basically, to make the whole thing happen, you have 180 days, so about 6 months from the time you close escrow on your sell property. You have 180 days, 6 months to close escrow on the replacement property. And you have some identification, for the replacement property you have to do as well. Now, a reverse exchange, it goes in reverse, right? So why would you use a reverse exchange? Well, you would use that, especially in a market like today, where the inventory might be a little bit lower, or you find the right opportunity and you want to buy the property, the replacement property first, before you sell what you have to sell, or just because you may not have the time to sell the property you have to sell before you complete, your purchase. So you would go the reverse strategy. So you would purchase the replacement property first, and then from the time you acquire that replacement property, then you're going to have 6 months or 180 days to sell the property that you want to sell. Now, the reverse exchange is one of the most complicated exchange in the tax code, right? So there's a lot of moving parts and things like that.
Yeah,
but that's in a nutshell, how it works. And that's a great tool in a market like today.
I
right?
would say this is probably the right market for that
Yeah.
because it's not outrageously difficult to sell a house right now.
Eh,
Right? If you price
relatively-
it properly,
Exactly.
it's going to sell.
Exactly.
So finding one is more difficult.
It's more difficult. I mean, it's not uncommon to get to a property and you have multiple offers and you're not sure if you're going to get it, and, price the way they are and so forth. I mean, that can be a challenge. So it gives you more time to go and find the replacement. You're not constrained by the 45 days identification.
And you don't have to worry about the 45-day identification number is already done because you know what the other property is.
Yeah, typically that's right. Yeah,
because it's now what happens if you don't get in the reverse. If I'm doing a reverse exchange and I've bought a new property and my departing property doesn't sell,
then you just
keep on going. You
keep
own
on-
two
you-
properties.
Yeah, you don't have to sell it. I mean, you keep your property, and you just it costs you the cost of doing the exchange.
Okay.
But you're
Are
not.
doing exchanges expensive?
It depends on the type of exchanges.
Okay.
But it's a very small fee when you look at what it would cost in paying the taxes.
Yeah, you can. And it's funny how it amazes me sometimes how people can, to jump over dollars to get to nickels,
Mhm.
right? They worry about the cost of the exchange. And I see the same thing when I talk to people about doing some of our business owner home loans. They say, well, the interest rate is 2% above what I'm hearing on TV. Well, yeah, but you're saving 30% on your taxes, right? So if you can save 30, and the same thing that you're talking about, okay, so if I have to pay, I don't know, 2, 3, 5, I don't know what the number is, doesn't matter, cost a percent for the exchange, and I'm not paying 40% in capital gains or 20%. You can tell I'm not a tax guy, but I'm not paying the capital gains on it. The delta between the two can be massive.
Exactly. So you have to look at the opportunity, right? Do your numbers. So obviously a reverse exchange, because it's more technical, it's more involved, it costs a little bit more. You have to do an analysis, right? Does it make sense to do it? But we are not looking at tens of thousands of dollars here, right? So the fee is relatively small compared to what the benefits are. So,
and again, the whole idea here is you want to make sure. Again, it's like saying, I want to go to the cheapest cardiologist I can find. No, I want to go to the best one, right? I want the best outcome. You could probably find and when all you think about is price, I guarantee you're going to find somebody that's more expensive than Franck and somebody that's going to be cheaper than Franck. Just the way the world works, right? But you want to go to somebody who has the experience and knowledge of Franck and his company, because
we are celebrating our 25th year in business this year.
25th year.
Yeah.
Okay. Holy cow. I think about half those years I've had you guys coming on as a guest on my radio show. Almost half.
Yep.
I'm 13 years doing radio. So we've been doing the radio. And I know that you and your partner have been coming on for a long time.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're getting involved with people that really, really know what they're doing and know the right answers and questions, because even though Franck, I'm sure, knows the vast majority of the tax answers, he's going to give you the questions to ask your tax advisors, because that's what they get paid to do. They go to all those hours of continuing education. So you want to make sure you've got both parties on your team. Absolutely. You want the exchange resources and Franck and his group, and you want your CPA. And if you need help with finding either one of those, I know where to find Franck. That's easy. And I know several CPAs that understand this stuff as well. Call me at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, and we'll put you in touch.